Good morning, I'm Carl. Welcome to Coffee with the Garden Club. Today is the first of two episodes that I'm going to do consecutively on sea kale. I'm giving sea kale 2 episodes because it is one of my favorite plants, and I want to talk both about the description of the plant and how you can use it, but also about starting the plant from seed. There are a couple of ways of starting it, and I'll go into those a little bit later, but next episode will be all about starting from seed. So first, what is sea kale? Sea kale is a member of the brassica family. It is Crambe maritima. I know I just butchered that Latin, but that is its Latin name. It is a Mediterranean plant and also grows along the coast of cooler areas like Great Britain. That's its native range, France, Great Britain, and throughout the Mediterranean. Here, you can grow it as far north as Zone 5, maybe even in cooler areas. I grow mine in Zone 6B, and it comes back every year as a perennial. So that is one of the great traits of sea kale, is that it is a perennial. It will last for 5 to 10 years, each plant. And you can propagate each plant a zillion times just by taking root cuttings. So we'll talk about that a little bit further along. It is a very useful plant. Once you have one, you can very quickly have 20 of these. The plants are at maturity about 4 feet in diameter, like a large, they look a bit like a big rhubarb plant, except the leaves are more grayish blue. The leaves themselves are thicker than ordinary kale. They are kind of a little bit almost waxy in texture, and they are best in the spring. So the sea kale actually has 3 different crops, actually 4 different crops, and I will go into those in this video. The first that I would talk about is the leaves, and those, as they're coming up in the spring, can either be blanched by putting a pot over top of the plant in the spring and keeping the sunlight out, which will result in sort of yellowish, whitish leaves, which are a delicacy in Europe. I don't bother with that. I think it stresses the plant out a bit, and I don't feel the need for that. And there are several other things I want from the plant during the course of the season, so I try not to stress it out in the spring. Although if it's a mature plant, I will take a good number of leaves. I take up to like a quarter of the leaves off of the plant in the spring, and usually I'll get them when they're maybe about anywhere from 6 inches to a foot in length of the leaves themselves. And they make great greens. So that's the first crop that you get from them. The second crop is the broccolis. Now, the broccolis will shoot up sometime in my zone, like I say, 6B, sometime in early to mid-May. And these are actually flower buds, but they look just like broccoli. And the plant is related to broccoli. So that's why. So these broccolis taste very similar to broccoli, except to the broccoli that you're familiar with, except that they are sweeter. There's no bite to them at all, and I find them superior to regular broccoli. It's a very mild broccoli and just absolutely delicious. I don't know, it's hard to say what my favorite crop is, but I think that's probably my favorite out of all of them. That said, the next crop that you get, if you let some of those buds bloom and go to seed, you will start getting little pea-shaped seed pods. And when those are green, those can be eaten. You can steam them or cook them, similarly to green peas. So these pods are actually spherical. They don't grow in a pea pod, like I'm kind of implying here, and that's not what I mean. They are seed pods. Each one has one seed, and they're tiny, spherical, almost oval sometimes seed pods. Now these pods, you just pick a whole bunch of these round seed pods off of the plant and steam them, and they are also really tasty. I haven't eaten lots of them. I've only eaten a few because I try to save the ones that I have to grow seeds for people who might want them. So I have experimented with it, and to be perfectly honest, I can't remember exactly what they taste like here in January. So I feel like they taste a little bit like green beans, maybe, but I don't want to be quoted on that, so don't quote me on that. The fourth, so that was the third crop that you can get. The fourth crop is one that I haven't really experimented with at all, but I think I probably will this coming year because I'm going to have a lot of roots that I'm pulling up. The roots are edible, kind of like carrots. So they can be about the size of carrots in an older plant. And so you can dig these up and use them as a root crop. I haven't tasted them, and so I'll have to get back to you on that one. I've always considered the roots, at least for the first 5 years or so that I've been growing these, too valuable to eat because they are the best way of propagating the plant. And I've propagated them for myself, I've propagated for my friends, and I really hate to eat something that can turn into a full-blown plant next year. So a root segment the size of a carrot can become a full-size plant within 12 months of planting it. The first season, it'll be a little delicate and it's a little touch and go. The second season, it will be full size or close to full size. It'll continue to get a little bigger over the next few years and producing the flowers and seed pods and things like that. So growing from these root segments I'll go into that in this video, and then the next video I'll go into growing from seed. But growing from the root segments is extremely easy, and this is the way I recommend that you do it. However, it is not super easy to find these root segments. So just in terms of terminology, the root segment of the sea kale plant has a funny name. They call it sea kale thongs. Yes, you heard me correctly, thongs. The jokes write themselves, I know, but anyway, that's how they come. They come as sea kale thongs, and so when you buy them, you generally buy 3 to 6 of these things from a grower, and you will get them in perhaps 4-inch to 6-inch lengths. The top usually will be cut flat. The bottom usually will be cut at an angle. At least that's the convention. It's not always what people do, but that's generally the convention. And so you want to plant it with the angled end down. And you don't have to plant it very low, very deep below the surface, but it should be generally vertically planted. Now, if you don't know which end is the top, you should look for little, almost what looks like bubbles on one end, and that usually indicates that that is the top of the thong. If you don't see that, you can always plant it sideways, and it will determine which way is up on its own, and you don't really have to think about it. But ideally, you will plant them vertically in the ground. And so that's probably how they will do best, but they'll probably survive. The thongs are really resilient. The seeds, on the other hand, are not and need special care, as I will talk about shortly. Why is this one of my favorite plants? This is one of my favorite plants, first of all, because it's a perennial. It's an easy perennial. It doesn't have to be coddled too much. You put it in good garden soil and it will take care of itself. once it is established. However, for the first year, you want to put a cage around it, and you also have to be careful of foragers like deer, that sort of thing, because they do really like sea kale. Second reason that I really like it is because of the many ways that you can use it. It produces food through the season. The seed pods themselves come sometime, at least here, in the middle of July. So between late April and July here, I have something pretty much every month. Whether it is the leaves very early on, the broccoli is next, then the seed pods. And in the fall, I could conceivably harvest the roots if I had enough plants and I wasn't as concerned with sharing the roots themselves. So I really like that. And I just like the simplicity once you get them started. But the first year is dicey, especially when you're growing from seed, and I will talk about that a little bit more on the seed video that is coming tomorrow. But as far as easy plants go, as far as perennial foods go, this for me is top of the list. I always have it in my garden. I always plant it. If I'm like when I was doing the school garden with kids, I planted it and it's still going strong there. And I've planted it at a couple of other locations too. So I've had really good luck with it. It doesn't work well without good soil. You really want good, well-drained soil. If you just put it into a corner of your yard, it might not do very well. I have seen people fail that way. But put it in good garden soil and it will treat you right. So that is our first talk, episode 1 of 2, about sea kale. If you enjoyed this, please drop me a thumbs up below, put a note in comments, ask me any questions you like, and please consider following me on Instagram, which is @FoodForestGardenClub. Take a look at our website, which is in process. It's not completed, but it is under development at foodforestgardenclub.org. And please follow me right here on YouTube. So I look forward to seeing you again soon. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to share the second video, which is all about growing sea kale from seed. In the meantime, enjoy your coffee.